tree dance, and we buried it.
It's a moment of silence. Hold it, I'm just doing the church.
A moment of silence for the
having a funeral. I'm the church. The church. What are you guys doing?
Hey, a moment of silence, please.
A moment of silence. A moment of silence. Having a funeral.
Moment of silence.
No, not in the head of the bug. No, everyone silent.
A moment of silence.
And then I will let you say starting now. Hold it. Let's say that I think two things about it. No, you are beautiful. And what is it?
You were beautiful, but you died.
You were beautiful. You were nice, but someone killed you. You were beautiful, but you have the colors of a flower. And look at that. Who's got a flower for the funeral? Not me. We like. Come on, let's go and find one. No, let's go and find one. You guys go find one.
Stay here and guard the body.
Okay. So what's in
Oh man, we have to go. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.
That's how our peacemaking always
ends.
And our break. Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Any conflicts that you worked out?
We're in a lot of conflicts with each other.
Of course.
But usually they just kind of resolved once we started laughing.
Yeah, the big thing. We just
Yeah.
kinda, like, took people, like...
There was a tire swing. Something about the tire swing.
We got in a fight about the tire swing, I think, when somebody wanted to go on, and we thought we were excluding somebody. All I remember is, like, somebody felt like they were excluded, so then we had a peacemaking about it, and it was really funny.
Yeah. We were little kids. I mean, we always got into big fights with each other. Like, we were always friends, but we'd get into fights about stupid things, like the swing, or like just who got to play with the ball first, or oh, I feel like I'm being left out, so I'm gonna cry and be mean. So, I mean, we're kids. Kids do that, and we always ended up resolving it because I think we were taught to. Like, if it was too big for us to handle on our own, we'd get help. And there'd always be someone running off to get Anne, or Lori, or someone. When you're little, every little thing can cause a conflict. Don't know why that is, but there are just a lot of pointless conflicts. And as you grow up, you still have the same amount of big conflicts maybe, but you don't have all the little ones along the way because you realize that those things aren't important. Maya the liar. That her mom worked at the Bank of Montreal. I remember that. Maya, did your mom work at the Bank of Montreal? Maya's a
No, I'm pretty
liar.
sure I said the bank in Montreal.
No, it's the
that's
Bank
why
of Montreal, and we thought
No,
it
I
was
know.
in
No,
Montreal.
I know, that's why I thought she was such a liar, because I was like, she lives in Toronto. She can't be in Montreal.
And it was such a big thing. It was like it was the scandal of like senior kindergarten. Maya, where does your mom work? Bank of Montreal. I'm gonna ask her where she works.
Hey, Maya! Why, it was tidy up time anyway. Yeah, well, you shouldn't break my structure and was coming to look at it. Well, more candy. That's not your candy. It's not even candy. Mine's She's a liar. She says her mom works in the Bank of Montreal. Yeah, but her mom knows that too. You better ask her, Mom, if she works in the bank. I would ask Maya. Bank of Montreal? I thought you said. The Bank of Montreal. Maya, does her mom really work at the bank at Montreal? Yes. No. How do you know? I'm gonna ask your mom. Where does your mom work? At the Bank of Montreal.
I remember when I saw that in the film, I laughed.
I remember it
remembered
before I
that.
saw the film. That stuck out in my mind, as well as the ant burial.
Yeah, I remembered that.
I remember
when I saw
the
that.
building burial. Remember when they tore down the thing and we built a cross on it, and then Ava came over and she was like, "You can't have a cross on it because we're not all Catholic," or something like that. And we were like, "We're just paying dedication to the old climber," and she was like, "No." So it was like a big thing, and then I think we had to have a peacemaking over that actually.
I don't remember my first time doing peacemaking, but I know that we did do a lot of it throughout the years, and I do remember some instances doing it.
What do you remember?
I remember that we would usually get an older girl or like an older student if it was a big problem. Sometimes we were able to just work things out on our own, but if there was a big issue, we would often have a teacher or an older student come to help us peacemake.
The older kids would come in and do like skits, peacemaking skits about, I don't know, some like made up conflicts, and then we would watch and be like, oh. And I do remember doing a lot of peacemaking like in our group, within our group, and there were all like little tiny fights or that seemed huge to us at the time.
So what would you do?
We usually went like out in the hall and sat down, and then we'd have to make sure everyone was like okay and not angry anymore, so that they were ready to solve the problem. And then we'd go out and sit and pick a mediator. We'd pick 2 mediators, and just like one person would go over the rules. One person would go first, and usually it ended in laughter over something.
Peacemaking is how we would solve any problem that we had in our group. To me, it was always really important that if we wanted, we could have an objective mediator there, so whether that be a teacher or an older student or even someone in our own grade, with someone there who could make sure that things didn't get out of hand and that we were being productive in our attempts at peacemaking. I think just the most important thing for me is that it taught from a young age like non-violent intervention, that you use your words and not your hands to solve your problems. So that's a very important thing, and I think it successfully accomplished that.
I think it's not the actual peacemaking, like the structured kind of peacemaking that we did back then. I don't use that now, but I definitely think I learned a lot about expressing, how I felt, learning how to express my feelings about a problem, learning how to listen to what other people felt without letting how I felt about what had happened intervene with that. And so I think it has helped me in dealing with just dealing with conflicts or problems that I have with people, because I know how to address them. I know how to how to address them in a way that they're going to listen to me, as opposed to just kind of dismissing me as, silly or not wanting to pay attention to what I have to say.
Yeah, when you're in a conflict, it's often about power and someone wanting to be in control, or both people wanting to be in control. And in order to solve that conflict, you both have to make yourselves vulnerable and just to get to the bottom of things. And if one person isn't willing to do that, then it doesn't work, because then you have one person still wanting to be in control and one who's willing to put themselves in a vulnerable situation to solve it. So that's really important that both people are willing to solve the problem before it can be solved, or else it won't work.
Well, I've found that I'm a lot more able than most people to kind of admit when I'm getting defensive, kind of step back and say, well, you're putting up a wall, I'm not listening. I have to kind of step back, look at the problem anew, and be more open up to what they're saying.
Some conflicts should be resolved in the moment. Some conflicts I wouldn't really call them conflicts, and that's kind of why they don't really need to be solved in the heat of the moment. So, like, for instance, when we were younger, right, there was stuff that really did not deserve as much attention as we gave it, but at the same time it did help us develop the peacemaking skills that we had. So when you're younger, it's helpful, but if we take it on too long, if we continue with it too much, then there's going to be a couple of issues, I think. I think you become more of a really picky person, I guess you could say. Like, I'm not gonna say hostile because it's not that bad, but like if you don't choose like if you don't pick and choose the types of stuff that you want to be having peacemaking stuff with, then I think you just won't understand it as much. It won't be as important to you to solve your conflicts in the same way.
Peacemaking is kind of like a stepping stone on to like bigger and better things, you know. It's not like a practical, like sitting down and getting everybody and getting 2 mediators. It's not a practical thing to, you know, do in high school. Like, go to your teacher, I need to take like an hour off so I can go do a peacemaking. But it's just like it gives you the tools, so you're not going to be completely lost when you're dealing with things in other ways, like high school, because that's some interesting things happen.
Interesting
in high
conflicts
school.
there.
Interesting thing. When I first moved into the group home, there was fights. Like, my roommate had just gotten into a fight, like a fist fight, with her old roommate, who had gotten kicked out because of that. And it just sort of, when I went in, it just sort of bugged me how much fighting there was. So we have peer support once a week, and I would just sort of take it in there, and I'd sit down, and I'd be like, okay, we're going to talk about this, because it would bug me. And it just got to the point where that became a weekly thing, where peer support was about dealing with the peers' issues instead of things like people aren't switching, like putting toilet paper on their roll when they're done it, or the bathroom's disgustingly dirty. Like, now it's more about, oh, I'm having an issue with this person, and I wanted to wait to come in here so we could have support, and I just wanted to give her time to cool down. So it's become a lot like that, and I mean, it's like that at school too. So, I mean, I'm in my element. When I see someone who has a problem, I just sort of go up to them and say, like, oh, like the people who are fighting, I try not to interfere too much, because I mean, it's not always my business, and I don't want to get people mad at me or more mad at each other. So I just sort of will wait until it cools down a bit and say, like, oh, are you okay? I saw you were fighting. Do you want me to help out? And if they do, then I'll help, and I'll just sort of do the peacemaking thing. I'll get them, I'll sit down with them, and just sort of, like at school, in our lounge, in my house, in our living room, and just talk about it, talk it out, do the peacemaking thing. Each person gets a chance to say their side of the story, and then just sort of work through it. How can we solve it? How can we stop this from happening again?
Well, see, peacemaking at DAS, it went up to, like, it did go up to grade 6, because we were taught it the entire time, so we were still peacemaking grade 6, but once I left and went to Horizon, there was a program that I took at St. Stephen's Community House, and it was just like a peer mediation thing. So we were just there to learn, basically, because then they were gonna instigate some peer mediation inside the arcade, as they call it, which is just basically like a big place so you can hang out and stuff.
Drop-in center,
yeah.
Community center in the area.
So we did that. I don't think it really quite got as far as we'd hoped. Like, no, I don't think anybody came forward, because it is a new thing within, you know, other communities. But yeah, it was there, and it still is there. So if they ever need peer mediation stuff, then we are still there. But then I came to UFA, or Ursula Franklin, and we did a program in grade 9, a Wednesday session, that was all about peer mediation. So they just taught it to us again. So basically every school that I've been to has something to do with peer mediation. So I have never really forgotten how to do it at all.
Unless you've like known that for like since
whole life,
you
yeah.
started, like,
Or you've just kind of been exposed to it. You can't really
you
know
you
what?
can't understand it if you don't
I think
go.
that you can actually understand it through these movies. Like, this may sound like promoting the movies and stuff, but it's like, I was watching, last time I watched the DAS video, I was just sitting there, and I took it to my house once and had people watch it, and like my group home, and kids were just like, wow, you had a really interesting school. Like, people were just like, oh, I wish I had gone to a school like that. And like, I just think that you can really, like, these are a great thing, because like watching it, you just see how obviously like the teachers cared about us kids, and how we grew up, and what we were exposed to, and
how they really wanted to teach us like tolerance and acceptance, and just there were so many things that were presented to us at such a young age, and I'm really grateful for that, especially with where my life ended up. So,
But
well, so far.
but in terms of like teaching people the ideals of the school,
It's hard.
it's just as you get older, you become so much more set in your ways. So it's like they could be like, oh, that's like a really cool school you went to, but they'll never really
Adopt the values
be
themselves
able
as
to,
much.
like they could want to, but it's just so much more difficult because everything, your whole life has run a certain way, and then to change it all is like you have to have the backing of everybody to make, even because it's a pretty major change to accept or to like adopt the, you know, all of the ideals that DAS taught us, like about peacemaking, because everybody has to be on board.
How would you feel if you got a call to peer mediate?
Oh, I'd love to. I mean, I really enjoy the experience of peer mediation, so if, you know, they ever needed it, I would be glad to go and do it.